All right, you're good to go.
Awesome. Hey, welcome everybody. Welcome back. Now this is the second time for today, and now we're going to talk about GitHub 101. Really exciting to have Steve and Duke here to talk through GitHub, and Steve has some familiarity with this too, Steve. So I know that you're going to be jumping in here. So hopefully we get to hear some of your knowledge in this space. And Duke, thanks for bringing this topic to us and being able to walk through it. I think this is going to be a really exciting topic, one that I'd like to learn more about. That's for sure. So let's dive in here. GitHub 101. We're here with the Milwaukee Power Platform user group. So again, this is just one of those things that, Steve and I started this just over a year ago, and now we continue to have, these awesome presenters with great topics. The same agenda as usual. We're going to do some introductions really quick. We'll then go through the presentation. If there's any demo, we'll talk through that. And then also with questions and wrap up, we'll just make sure if there's anything that's outstanding, anybody has any questions, just bring those up, during the conversation, and we'll make sure we get to them. Other than that, just make sure that you add us on LinkedIn for our Power user group, where, just stay up to date. We have events all the time. There's constantly new videos and presentations that are being put out. Like Duke here, this is the second time on the user group, and it's just really exciting to be able to have the variety of speakers that we have. All right, with that, a little bit about myself. My name is Anthony Escobedo. I'm the Milwaukee Power Platform user group, one of the board members here. And I'm also on the SharePoint user group as well. And so I kind of cover the Power Platform on that side. I'm a technical architect at Concurrency, and I've been in technology for some time. And, from a traveling perspective, it's just something that I always like to do. And right now, not a lot of us are traveling, physically, but now, bringing Duke into the conversation, having Mike, produce this and his experiences, and having Steve here, we get to bring all these great minds together, and it feels like we're traveling. So this is my home away from home, even though I haven't left. And then from a LinkedIn perspective and Twitter, follow me there, and I'm always posting new things and staying in touch with either the community or kind of the latest trends, or just griping about certain things that are happening. So stay in touch there, and then my website as well. So feel free to contact me in any which way you feel you should. Now over to Steve.
Hey, yeah, I'm Steve Campbell. So I co-run this group with Anthony here. So I run the Power BI team at Cognizant in England. So I'm over in the UK, Power BI MVP. So I see on the YouTube as well, we definitely have some Power BIers, which is great. So it's going to be a really awesome, from my perspective, on models and that kind of stuff, how we can use GitHub. And then learning a bit more of the Power Platform and the Power App side. So, really a open topic, I think, today, which covers all of us. Anyone who touches code can really benefit from this. So, yeah, really looking forward to it.
Hey, Steve, quick thing. So you are or are not in the US now?
Currently, I am. Yes, I'm visiting the US.
Okay.
Yeah, I need to. Maybe it looks like my travel is going to be a bit limited from now on. So happy to be here for now.
You have like a running bet. It's like a 50-50 chance if you're going to be in the UK or the US.
Lots of family here. So
awesome. Thank you, Steve. Let my slide advance here. There we go. And Duke.
Oh, hey,
you let me update that. Huh? Let me update it. As you talk. You run it, and I'll update it.
Hi, I'm Duke DeVan. So I'm a Power Platform consultant at Hitachi Solutions. So all things Power Platform or whatever they throw at me, with the exception of Power BI. That's for you guys. Maybe I'll get into that space one day. But I've been working with the Power Platform for going on 2 years now. I also consult outside, kind of do some freelance stuff as well. Doing Power Platform builds and integrations and replacing legacy systems, stuff like that. I'm excited to be back, talk about how I use GitHub in a Power Platform, and share my experience with you guys. Hopefully you guys have some awesome feedback. If you're using it, I'm always open to learning more and taking tips. I don't feel like I'm too smart to learn more. Just because I work in this space doesn't mean I know everything in this space. So if you guys have any feedback, please shoot it my way. Thank you.
Thank you, Duke, and thanks for allowing me to update that slide. I know that things have changed since you last were at the user group.
Yeah, conflict of interest. Don't do that no more, man. No.
Awesome. Cool. With that, we're here to talk about the Power Platform, and we'll let you kind of take the reins from here and kind of run with your presentation. Is there anything that you specifically want to call out before we kind of transition?
No. Well, no.
Okay.
No,
well, we can transition whenever you're ready, and I think it's going to be a really good topic. So when we talk about GitHub and all of those things, I mean, this is something that a lot of people are going to be interested in learning, and more than likely it's going to be their first time, kind of seeing and getting an introduction to this space.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so for me, what I primarily do, I completely had no clue what GitHub was. I've heard of friends using it, but coming into working in a developer space as a Power Platform developer, and seeing how Microsoft has grown the Power Platform and just the tools of trying to make it something similar to ProDev, with repos and releases and moving your code, packaging up your solution and stuff like that, kind of automating that process. That's where I got into it at. And then also building independent publisher connector that I have out there. I learned more about GitHub that way because I had no clue what it was. I've
awesome.
Always heard of it. I've heard of Git and GitHub. Still don't know the difference. But I know GitHub to a degree. So that's what I'll share today is just automating a solution or moving solutions with GitHub.
Cool.
For those of you that work on the Power Platform space, over the past year or past 2 years, I've got more into packaging up my solutions. It's easier than trying to run around and find something in one spot. You have your app here, you have your flows here, you have your tables here, you have your connection references here. And when you try to move from test to dev, from dev to test or to prod, you kind of want to have all that stuff packaged up to make it easier to maintain your code, make it easier to maintain your applications. And so that's what I use GitHub for. Now there is an iteration of this for Azure DevOps, but we're not talking about that. But there's a way that you could do that there and here. But so I'll explain, why I choose GitHub over Azure DevOps. Primarily, I just don't want to go through the rigmarole of Azure DevOps. Some people don't want to go through it. Some people don't quite understand Azure DevOps. Working in the space, I do. But GitHub was just a little bit easier for me, actually. The setup I'm going to run through, it doesn't really take that long to do. It's just a couple of copy and pasting, making sure your login and your passwords and everything are together. And then we start moving stuff. I also have a flow tied to the end of this for when a pull request is generated, the flow just runs and sends me an alert when a pull request is created in my GitHub repo. So what I'll do is I'll just jump into it. The first thing, let me go to, if you don't have a GitHub, you're gonna need to create one. If you do, awesome. The only thing, the next steps we'll take is just to create a repo here. So if we go create new, and then and I think that, yeah. And so I'll just create that repo for this demo here. I'll make it private. You're gonna need to do add a README file here when you create it, and just create your repository. And
then
so
could you maybe just give us a kind of quick overview, because I know creating repository might be a new term for a lot of people. So maybe what does that mean exactly?
Yeah, you're just creating a place, kind of a directory. We're setting up a directory here to house our files, essentially. So this will have you have your main directory, or your repository will have your main directory, or we'll also have branches, which will be considered, I guess you could consider it a subdirectory. You'll hold your code and we'll go through and we'll create a branch. And what we'll do is those separate branches will be offshoots of the main branch. And as we make commits and do pull requests, we could pull those branches to our main repository or our main directory. And from there, that's where we'll move our solutions. So that way, while we're working in the branches inside of our repo, we can update whatever we need to update without affecting the main branch or affecting affecting our ultimate destination, which is, in our case, is prod. We can pull our commits in there, our changes, and then again, put it into our main directory, create a release, or manually run the workflow to move our solution. So essentially, a repo is just a directory. That's how I try to think of it. Anytime I come in, you work with so much technology, you get into the space of trying to remember so many things. So I just break it down to the simplest form for me, because I'll go crazy trying to remember a repo or all this big terminology. So essentially, we're just creating a big directory here to house our files, to house our code, and creating subdirectories for changes to our code. And then we'll be pulling those subdirectories into the main directory to move our code. So
awesome. Yeah. Thank you.
No problem. So then next here, we're going to create an action. So an action, if you're familiar with Power Automate, it's almost the same thing. A GitHub action is just it's a workflow. This uses a YAML file. I'm not too big with YAML. I can't get too much deep in detail about YAML for you guys, or .yml, however you want to say it. I say YAML. So that's all we're going to do is we're going to create a file. And this file here, if you look at the sample file they have in here, it just walks through steps. It's telling us where we're pushing things to. So here it says main, or pull request from branches is main. This is just a sample, but it's just a set of step-by-step instructions for this workflow to run. So again, in Power Automate, you'll have your trigger, then you'll have your different actions or your steps that you need to execute in some sort of business process. So what I'll do here is actually if you go to the Microsoft Docs on this, I should have had it saved in here already. I thought I did, but GitHub Actions, it'll pop up. So there's a Docs file, a Microsoft Docs on this particular process here. You can repeat it over and over and over again for your different, I would say do it by app. You don't want to muddy up your repositories or your repos with multiple apps. It'll be harder for you in the end. And so all it is we just come here. Well, actually, let me step back. I missed a step. What we want to do inside of our repos, we want to create a setting, create our secret. How I'm logging in is using the user. Now you could create a service principal, but that would also require you to go through Azure, do some configuration, and get a service principal keys and all of that. Here, you could just use the account that you're using to sign in. So whatever your O365 account is, so mine would be my real name, Marsharis at DeVan Unlimited, and then the password that I use to sign in. So you would go from settings to secrets here, and we're going to create a new repository secret. Once we insert our YAML file, we'll type in password. So once we insert our YAML file, it'll go and look for the password or the secret for this particular repository. It's okay if I share it with you guys. I'll change it when I'm done. But so I'm gonna add the secret. And then next, we're going to go to our actions. Then we're going to set up our workflow. And then again, we'll go over here to our tutorial. This particular file is actually stored in the in GitHub. So as I click on this file, it's going to take us over to GitHub. So if you want to actually set this up, and you'll be using GitHub to do it as well. So let me go and grab. Wow, it's taking us through that stuff. I don't care about it. I should add it saved. Sorry about that. But
So what you're trying to do here is you're kind of creating that connection between GitHub and
GitHub and yeah. I turned my clipboard off so I didn't save the YAML file. So once you come over here, you'll go and you'll click on Export and Branch Solutions to your YAML file, which will open up GitHub. We'll copy that from here in GitHub and then go back to our action here to just copy and paste. We'll just paste this in. So paste. And what we have here, what we want to do here is just name it as this Export and Branch Solution. Or you can name it as whatever you want to name it as. I'll just stick with the.
So what is it that we're grabbing here?
We're grabbing the first action. So this first action here will export our unmanaged solution to GitHub and place it in the branch inside of GitHub. This will export it from our dev environment.
Okay.
So I'll name it as that, and then we'll need to go in here. So you will need, the only thing that you would need to edit in here is your environment URL and your username. And so you can find your environment URL if you're not familiar with it. Is go to the admin center of the Power Platform admin center, and then go to the dev environment or wherever your build environment is, however you want to reference it. And you'll grab your environment URL there. Mine is in dev, so I'll just grab that one. I have quite a few environments in here. So yeah, we'll just click on our development environment here. And then we'll grab our environment URL for that one. I'm going to copy this link out, go back over to my file. Paste this in. And then again, your user ID for the your O365 user ID. And then we'll commit this. And so this is where we're committing it to a branch now. So this is another a directory essentially. So we're going to commit it to our main branch. And here you could choose.
So sorry, didn't mean to cut you off. There was a good question from Susan in the chat.
Mm-hmm.
So she was asking, the main is so your main here is your key directory, your repository here that holds the code. That is correct. And the branches are work in progress. Is that a good way to summarize it?
Yeah, you could think of it as like a parent-child relationship. Your work in progress would be in those child branches, and your main branch would be your parent, where you can push all your code up to or roll it up to whenever you're ready to make a change in whatever environment you want to make a change in. So what I'll do here, thanks for that question. You got Susan, thanks for that question. We'll just commit this now to our main branch. And this will run, as you see, if we come out to our main branch, this will run in our main branch here.
So this is like the first step that you have to do to get it to that main branch is to commit, with the credentials and that URL.
Sorry, could you say that again?
Sure. So yeah, we were able to copy out the YAML out of the repository that you with the file that we had grabbed initially. Copied it into your repository, updated the credentials, and then from that you were able to so that's kind of like the first big step that you got to do to get these two connected.
Yeah. So grabbing that YAML file, and this is the export from our dev solution, or our dev environment, I should say, updating with our credentials, like Anthony said, and then pushing it to this main environment. The reason why I push it to this main environment is because this is where, once we're ready to move to a new environment, we're going to, as I was talking about the other branches earlier, once we push our code from our branches, our children branches to the main branch, this solution or this YAML file will run on the main branch and run whatever's inside of the main branch and push it out. You could also put this on a different branch and run it from there. But for this we're just putting it on the main branch, so we can run whatever code's inside of this main and push it to our destination environment. So next, the next thing that we need to do is get our YAML file. There's two YAML files here. The one coming from dev to create a artifact and place it here in GitHub. And then there's one to push from dev to prod. Those are all here in GitHub, actually. I'm gonna go back to our solution here, or the steps here. Well, actually, let me do this first. Let me go. What I want to do is actually create a pull request first. So a pull request is essentially like getting something, or wait, where did it go? Am I in the right branch?
So are all, because it says Maurice and then it says MKE PPUG. So explain the differences between those two, I guess. Just as you're kind of. Yep.
Oh, so this here is me. I'm the owner of this branch. I mean, of this repository. So this is just my GitHub account. If I go back here.
So it's something we can navigate to as a user, right? Okay.
Yeah, this is the repository that I created, because I have many repositories. Once you come past the first slash, it's just another repository. You get another slash, it's just a branch.
So I can see all the work you're doing?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. So if you, I'll kind of go back here. So we'll see here, it just says I have quite a few repositories. So if I click in here, you see it changes. So this is just me, the owner, and this is my repository.
So does this have your the connector that you had submitted? I mean, does that go through your GitHub repository initially as well?
It's branched in here somewhere.
Yeah.
Let me see. Yeah, Power Platform connector. So essentially what I did was I created a branch or a fork off of the Power Platform connectors. This is a repository that's maintained by the independent publisher connector team over with Microsoft. So you just create a fork off of here and essentially get your own repository to do your dev work on your connector. And then again, once it's ready to be moved over to prod or certified, then you create a pull request, and then the team will come and look at it and certify your connector.
Cool. Wow, that's all through GitHub. That makes it really easy.
Yeah. They respond to you, help you out. It's a big, I forget how many connectors are out there now. I know one of the guys that I work with at Hitachi has about 30 of them. I think he's only put out like 12, but if you're interested, that's another use for GitHub. And if you're doing APIs or independent connectors, just a custom connector. So if you're doing good things with those or doing big things with those in your apps or your solutions, you could create one of those and go through this process here. So
just a quick recap of what you created here with the user group branch. Is that, are you setting this up for a specific scenario, or is this like the initial setup that just happens every time you use GitHub?
I'm setting this up for a specific scenario. I would say this particular thing happens here when you're trying to move different solutions. So again, if I go back here to the repository that I own, I have different pipelines that I have running right now to move solutions from my dev environment to my prod environment. So anytime, I would say to step through this anytime you want to set up a new application to move from dev to test to prod. Kind of save the YAML file off somewhere, or go into one of your solutions here and snatch it out of there. You're not doing, if I go and actually look at the YAML file on one of these, you're not doing anything different. You're not specifying a specific name or anything like that. It's all the same code. So you could possibly just snatch it from one of those, from a different repo if you wanted to set up your next application.
Got it.
All right, let me go back here. Let me go through here. I have to go out and get the next thing I'm gonna do is actually go out and grab the YAML file to push our code to production. So it's this release solution to prod YAML file. And again, just come over, copy this code. And so what this one does, this YAML file here, is just, again, step-by-step instructions to take the file that we bring over from, or our solution that we bring over from dev and that we placed inside of GitHub. All this is doing is going out to that repo that we created that solution in and grabbing that solution and then pushing it to prod. That way, you will always get the latest commits, the latest updates. If you so happen, I may make an error on purpose, but if you so happen to delete that solution inside of GitHub and you try to go out and look for it on your main branches and it's not there, this will error. I only did that to make sure that this wasn't some type of, I like to play around when I'm building stuff, and I like to see what happens if I delete something on purpose. So that's how I ended up finding that out. So
I always say what can be done, you'll want to figure out how you can undo it, because like anybody else, right? You're gonna like accidentally like mess something up or delete it, and then you like, where to go, and then you got to find out when it's like, critical.
Yeah, it's one of those things. I like to build things, but I also like to break them. So that way too, if I'm working with a client or whatever, I kind of want to be knowledgeable on what I'm doing. So if I'm working with a client and they just so happen to break something, chances are I broke it before them. So
yep.
So if we go here to actions again, we're just going to create another workflow. So just new workflow. Set up a workflow yourself. And then come in here. What do we name this one? Oh, I'll name it. Okay. Paste this file in here. So again, our step-by-step instructions. We don't need. So then this here, our build environment, we need to update. We need to update our prod environment, and again, our username. Our build environment will be the dev environment that we have. So it will be the same as the environment that we pasted into our first YAML file. Let me get that.
I'm not sure if you have a zoom it or anything, because it's quite small, the code, I think. So.
Oh yeah, I can zoom in.
Yeah, it'd be helpful.
That should be good. I would normally be in my office, but I had to vacate because I have construction going on above my office here at home. So let me go to our. This is the environment I want to push it to. Oh wait, that's a Teams environment. Don't want to do that one.
You know what would happen if you did do that?
I haven't tried to break that yet. So
okay. Yeah, I figured I'd ask.
I'll let you know. I'll probably try it when we get off this call.
And so creating that connection between GitHub and these environments, is that something that you already have established, or is that?
What this does is essentially it just tries to log in for you. You could create a service principal account and do it that way. But all this is really doing is it's taking my username, then that password I passed in, and it's just going out to Power Platform and logging in for you. It just needs the URL and all that to do it. So in a sense, the connection is, but it isn't established. It makes that connection every time this workflow runs.
Okay.
So let me go out, and there's something else that I need to update here, just making sure. Oh yeah. I could have possibly just got this from there. So we're going to copy that in there. And
so a lot of these things have to see eye to eye for this to work. It can't just be something you slap together. I mean, there's a lot of details that go into this.
Yeah. As with many things, yeah, you can't just come in here and say, hey, I'm going to do it this way and that's it. No, you got to, it's a little bit of configuration that goes into this. I guess in a way I prefer that. So we're just going to commit this again directly to our main branch. And so now we have our two YAML files here. So the first one is going to go out and get a solution for us. The next one is going to take that solution after we run through and do our merging of a solution to our main branch, it's going to come and get that solution that we brought in, and it's going to release it to the environment that we specified to go inside of our YAML file. So what I'll do next is we're going to run this one, and we're just going to go, this is going to go out to our dev environment, and it's going to grab a solution that I have there. Let me go outside my dev, so I'm actually here. So you go to solutions, and so the important thing to remember here is the name. So the name that you do not want to use a display name. The display name will error, it will say that solution does not exist. You want to use the name here, actually. As straightforward as I can get with it, this name. It's your display name concatenated together, no spaces, no delimiters, none of that. So you want to use this. When I was testing this a while ago, the first time I used it, I went and put this name in and was stuck for a little bit trying to figure out why it's not working, and I see the name right here. So that was the case. That name wasn't there. Well, I grabbed the wrong name essentially. So next, what I'll do is let me take this solution here, family solution data. This is just a solution that I'm building here at home for me and my wife to communicate with each other and better manage our finances. So outside of work, I do build things at home. So
that's awesome.
On
the last user group, actually, Mike and I were talking about that same thing, how we just, in our day-to-day, it's how do we start to incorporate more of this? And even with like RPA and things like that, where you can start to, I know I need to do this task, 10 times in the next month or whatever, if it could just kick off for me and just do it. I mean, it's awesome. He was actually talking about using like Google Nest, to have conversations and, in his household, just to be able to, have it's like a mic system, right? I mean, like we used to have intercoms.
Yeah. And that's, especially since the licensing got cheaper. So, before I wanted to, when I wanted to get the per user license, and I just wasn't inclined to pay the other $40 a month. So now it's in total for me and my wife, it's $40. So, or if we wanted to use a per app for, my son, he's a teenager, so he may need to get in on a few things.
That's awesome.
Yeah, man, I'm trying to figure out. It also keeps you, I would say, it keeps you on your toes, and you're still constantly learning as you're building. You're trying to build for the family is a little bit different than building for like a Fortune 500 client or just a client in general. And so it's a different business process, I should say. So you learn a little bit more of what you need at home. So I went and got the name of the solution that I want to move, which is this family solution data. Again, you need to grab the name of the display name, and all we do is paste it in here. The first line in here, which says name of the solution name of the solution to work on from Power Platform. Weird English, but okay. And then run the workflow. And so we'll see if I come back in here, it should kick off, or I may have to go back to it. I can actually watch it run in step. Yep. So now that's queued, and now it's going to do its thing. It's going to do its export. So it's starting the job, and then it's going to run. And you'll see all of these beautiful things happen here.
This is all real time.
This is all real time. If there's an error, it'll tell you what the error is. It'll also tell you where it's going. So it's going out, fetching the repository, doing all this good stuff here.
That's pretty awesome real time. I mean, it's like if you think of like Power Automate, that's kind of what this kind of looks like.
And so now it's exporting a solution and bringing it over to GitHub. It's going to unpack it, and it's going to create a branch for it. And where right here it says prepare for a pull request. Again, our pull request is going to be a request to pull it and put it inside of our main branch, and we'll then move that solution to prod or production.
So we have a question that came in. Somebody that may have just joined. Can you just clarify, the high level components of what's at work here? How does what you were talking about earlier with the solutions work with GitHub? And then, kind of where we are in the process.
Okay, so
very high level.
Yeah. So essentially, we're just building a workflow inside of GitHub. They're called GitHub Actions, and if you're familiar with Power Automate, it's the same thing. We're building an automation. We're going to grab solutions, package it up from our dev environment, and then move those solutions to a production environment. So what's all at play here, again, is just the actions, a workflow. We have repositories and branches. Those are, you would consider directories. The main directory, which would be our main repo, or the parent in the repo, houses the solution that we want to move after all the commits and changes are made to it. Our children are where we can make changes to our solutions or update our solution without disturbing the main branch of production.
Awesome. Yeah, that's really helpful. And then the way that these tie together is through there's a development environment, you're making changes, somewhere there, but then you eventually want to promote that to be, to change your prod environment. Mm-hmm. And that's what these actions here that you're showing.
And it's a CI/CD, so a continuous integration, continuous deployment. So one of those things are creating a pipeline, if you're familiar with DevOps or if you've done it in Visual Studio. You can do it in Visual Studio as well. So now we've exported our solution from Dev, and we now have that solution sitting out here inside of GitHub. So if we go here, we go to pull request, and we should see, where is my solution?
One of the questions here as you're looking through that is they were wondering if, from a GitHub action, are you able to, send notification based on those actions either being completed or maybe running into an error? Can you send that type of a notification back to, let's say, Microsoft Teams or back to a user in the Office 365 environment?
I'm going to do that in Power Automate shortly here.
Okay, cool.
So I wanted to tie, doing this way, we're doing this, and then I also wanted to tie it in Power Automate as well. So this is a pull request. This is our code that came in. We go here, we take a look at it. So if you're familiar with the solutions or how they break down, how you could look at them via JSON or through the XML, it's the same thing here. So you come in, you could actually see your solution, your schema name. You can see what's inside of there. You can see your entity. So this is the entity for the expenses. This is entity, sorry. It's Dataverse, CDS, what else was it? Dataflex. But this is a table. I think it's tables now. So this is a table inside of my Dataverse with the name. So that's the table name, and then it has all the metadata for that table here. What else is in here? So yeah, and then the app that's inside of that solution, and then everything that's going on in there. So essentially, you could make changes here if you wanted to without necessarily doing it inside of going back to the solution if it's something small. You probably could do it here, but I would probably go back to Dev and do it. I don't want to make any changes here because there's no way to tell if you made an error. So what we'll do now is we're going to create a pull request. And so this pull request, what this is going to do is it's going to push this code to our main branch. And our second workflow or our second action in here to push this out to production, we're going to kick that off and it's going to push it out to production. But we need to have this first sitting in our main branch because that's where both of our actions or workflows exist. So you could create a pull request. We could
and then we did have a question in the chat here as well, which might be a good time to this. He asked about how GitHub handles merge conflicts. So maybe if we can kind of describe what a merge conflict is and how that's handled here. So I'm sure you're going that direction.
Oh yeah. So I haven't really had any merge conflicts. So I really, to be honest with you, I can't speak to that too much because I haven't really encountered that or looked up on that or broken anything in that aspect. I could get you a better answer. Maybe one of these guys can and get back to you on that. Of course, Power Automate Desktop wants to update for the millionth time every day. So I really don't have an answer for that on that one. Sorry about that.
No worries. I think it ties into another question, also from John here. If I'm saying that correctly, is GitHub any different than using SharePoint as a repo. I think we're starting to see that definitely GitHub does have a lot more features. I think one of the, with the merge conflicts, one of the cool things is you can have multiple developers working at the same time.
Yeah.
You're kind of working on yourself here, not on your own projects, but having many people working on code at the same time, being able to do this in parallel is a really, really helpful tool, which a lot of other methods don't. I think he's a Power BI guy as well. So obviously this works on code. This, Power Apps is great. I think Power BI is lacking a bit, but I did send a link out with some bit more advanced thoughts on Power BI data models as well.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna pop in here, Duke. I'm gonna try and give you a little support here on the merge conflict area, and I'll give you a little area of what I understand about what merge conflicts are. So this is Mike Carlo. I'm sneaking in as the producer from the back end side of things. So been quietly listening here, looking at this, loving the solution. So to answer the question specifically around merge conflicts, so imagine that you have a pool of files, and then as you have a team of people, Anthony and I and Steve and Duke are all working on the same thing. Duke may be adding files, so an adding of a new file really doesn't create a problem. We're just adding a new file. We'll just merge it into our library of files in our repo, and then this will get pushed to main. No big deal. But when we have, let's say Anthony and Steve are working on the same file, and Steve edits line 1 and Anthony edits line 1. So when we have a merge conflict, we're trying to edit the same file from 2 different people. And so what happens is the code doesn't necessarily know which line of code to use moving forward. So if you delete a line of code, if Anthony's only the one editing the file, he deletes a line of code and then adds it back in, or makes a change to that one file, the repo understands how to say, oh, I see that you removed this line and added a new one. I can safely merge that into the final solution. But when you have 2 people editing the same file and someone is deleting or removing, or you're changing the same things at once, that's when we start having these merge conflicts. And so what typically happens is you have to either drop someone's changes, or you either take an offline mode essentially and look at the comparison of the 2 files or the 3 files altogether. What was the original, what was Anthony's change, and what was Steve's change, and kind of look at all of them together and say, okay, how do I make this all one file? And that's where you kind of need people to be involved. You can't just automate the merge of a file or that edit or change directly into the repo. So that's my understanding of kind of like what merge conflicts are. And to kind of go back around the SharePoint versus a repo kind of question, you can think of SharePoint as people editing files, but last one in wins always. So in SharePoint, you can have a bunch of files, and then as people edit them, whoever checks in the file or updates that file last, that last change wins. That doesn't necessarily work inside GitHub the same way. This is where we can have multiple people working at different code at different points in time, and you can get your head kind of broken around all the different things that you can do with GitHub. But the idea here is that anyone can edit at code at any point in time, and then you merge these kind of changes back together, and you have this concept of there's a main branch, there's a main set of code that is what we use moving forward. And so as we make changes, we can take a copy of that, kind of work on it locally for a little bit, figure out what we're going to do, and then when we think we're done with our changes, we can then say, okay, well, I'm done. I'm going to push or commit those changes back into the main branch. So I hope that helped kind of answers your question there.
To add on to that too, I think you have a little bit more of an administration side of that too, like you said, because there's, you're going to be committing things, somebody needs to approve it. There's more happening there, but it's for those advanced scenarios that you need those kind of those safe gates that happen. And specifically with, Steve and I's, Power BI version control solution where, the one person has it checked out, that one person's, editing that file. It's only really allowing, that specific user to make those modifications.
Love it.
When it comes to GitHub, now you're able to have multiple people working on it.
Exactly.
And it's built for that. And you're able to, like you said, commit those changes, merge specific things, and maybe, or you're going to see a change that somebody made and say, hey, let's go back to the drawing board because this looks like it could be great. But we're going to need to make some modifications before we, kind of submit this back to the broader, I guess, the primary branch. So again, these are all very advanced, more advanced features, and you do have to work in a different interface and get to know that a little bit as well. But I think when it comes to the errors that come, into play here, it just kind of falls back on what GitHub's really good at, and it identifies, what the issue is, and you kind of fall back into that GitHub world a little bit when it comes to the errors.
Yep. Cool. All right, back to you, Duke. Sorry about that.
No, you're fine. Thank you for educating me. So what we'll do here next is we're gonna do a merge request. So there's a few merge requests that you can do in GitHub. You could create a merge commit, which will add all the commits from this branch. Will be added to the main, and then you can squash and merge, and then this one commit that we're doing will send it to the main branch. And then the one commit from this branch will be rebased and added to the base branch. I haven't used that one, so I can't give you any, if there's questions on rebase and merge, I haven't done that one. So I'll just squash and merge, but it really doesn't matter. But I'll just do squash and merge. Squashes come in, and then we could just, initial load or something as our comments, and I'll squash and merge it here, confirm it, and then add the comment, I guess. And then so what we'll do is we'll see as we go back out to our main branch here, we'll then see our commit. And so it'll have everything inside there that we need. So our canvas apps, our entities, option sets, other stuff. And is our app, that's our model driven app. So I'll come back out to our solution. So the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to kick off this next workflow here. You could do it via release. I think the particular code that I have here was messing up. I have to go back in and figure it out, but it was messing up. So you can actually do a manual one, but if you want to, typically you could do a release, you would create a new release and it would kick off that code. Let me actually try it. It'll probably give me the family move. Hopefully it doesn't give me the error today, but yesterday I was having a rough day. So we could publish a release, and so, it needs a tag. So you need to add a tag to it. So some people, this is where you probably do your versioning if you wanted to. Add your tag, and then publish this release. And so what happens in an automated fashion, you go over here to Actions. This will then kick off this particular flow to move from dev, we'll move from GitHub to our production environment. And again, you can see all of this happen in real time. So I see it errored there. I don't quite understand this one because when I manually do it, it'll do it. So it's just one of the weird things. So if we go back to our actions here, I'm going to select a workflow to run. So which would be our release solution to production. And then, actually, I forgot the name. You need to make sure you grab the name of your solution as well. Otherwise, it'll say that it doesn't exist or I can't find it. So we're going to release the solution to production. We'll come here to manually run it. We'll run the workflow, and I'll copy and paste this in here. But first, let me show you my environment so we see that this thing doesn't exist in the environment that I want to move it to. Just so we see that I'm not fabricating anything here. So there's family solution, but no family solution data. So what I'll come in and I'll do now, just come down here and run this workflow. And it'll kick off shortly here.
Is this something that you've tried? Have you tried running like Git with the with code and running it through the console?
For me, no, I haven't. I try to stay away from the console, man. I
Well,
had enough of. Huh?
I was gonna say, I mean, when I first started with Git, I used strictly the console. I didn't even know that there was a web interface. I don't know if my brother was playing tricks on me or what, but it was one of those things I got to know it really well because of that. But now I haven't been in that space for quite some time, and this is definitely a great refresher.
Well, there's a desktop app too. You can actually clone your repos and everything up to your desktop and view it in a desktop app.
That's
so
awesome.
You could. There's a couple ways to do it.
Are you familiar with both the browser and the desktop app?
Yeah, but I stick to mainly the browser. I don't know. I just have I trust certain things, but don't trust others, and I don't. I feel personally more secure if I'm doing it online. In the browser, I don't know why. It's kind of like the thing with me and dishwashers. I don't trust dishwashers for some reason. They seem easier, but I don't like them.
I love that.
I still have a dishwasher, but I still hand wash my dishes. So yeah, this is just pushing it out to our production environment, grabbing it off from our repo here. I know it says grabbing it or connected to development environment, but this is if this solution does not exist in your repo, you cannot run this. This must be oh yeah, the other solutions I had were smaller. I don't know how big this one is. And also the time on this varies. So, if you have one solution that moves in 1 minute or 50 seconds, it may not be the case for your other ones.
It kind of sounds like Power Platform a little bit. You can run it today and it'll take, 10 seconds. Run it tomorrow, it might take a minute, but it's kind of all relative. It's going to be, somewhat instant. It's just.
Yeah. And I prefer, and people want to know why I would go this way. You could do it even more manual if you wanted to go here and while this runs, if you wanted to go out here and click on, grab a solution and export it, but then you would be responsible. This is managed, so I can't do it. But this one isn't. But if you want to go out and export it, then you got to do all this click of the button stuff. It's not going to work. Wait, oh, what happened here? Looks like this one failed. For solution run. What's the issue? Oh, it timed out while waiting. Of 2 minutes. Oh yeah, well the 2-minute thing is one of the things. All right, well, let me go to a different repo because I want you guys to see this work. So
Just high level too.
Yeah. So I would go over here. I would just grab this one here and run it. This should be relatively quick. Go in here again, select the workflow, release solution to prod, run the workflow. That's already in there. So run it. The unpredictability of demos.
Yep, that'll definitely happen. I feel like that happens like 99% of the times.
What? So I'm not alone? Okay.
Oh, you definitely not.
All right.
In front of clients, in front of friends, it doesn't matter who it is. If you're demoing, you're not by yourself.
Clients are the worst, man. Because then they'll look at you like,
what do you mean this works?
This is what I'm paying you for? Like, yeah, it'll work tomorrow. But then you walk away and it works.
Yep, you just click next again and. So this is recompiling then, just in a different.
Yeah, this is a solution I have out there. It's just grabbing it from our main branch, then moving it to our production environment. I hope nothing's going on with my production environment. I don't have any locks or anything on anything. I would hope not.
Just as a quick time check, we have probably about 5 minutes.
Okay. I'll try to get through this. So once this finished, I'll show you everything.
And that's, yeah, and what this is doing here is this is going to be exporting the solution as managed and then upgrading that prod.
Yeah.
And so you can then, once that's completed, you can then navigate out to your environment. You can then be able to see, feel, and touch that real solution, right?
And then I'll also show you too. So I got a error message inside of my. So if your action fails, I'll show you. Well, this is from yesterday when I was prepping for our demo here today. But you'll actually get a notification that some of your jobs weren't successful. So if that ever happens, and if you click it and you step away, kind of monitor your Outlook. So now it's finally moving again.
It's just like we were talking about.
Right. So yeah, so now it's adding it to our solution there, or to our production environment. So now it should be done. So if we go out to our production environment and we go look here at this solution, cancel. Come on, computer.
Yeah, because now we get to see this full circle where we started in the environment, we were grabbing the URL, your credentials.
Come on.
Grabbing the dev environment, grabbing the prod environment. Now we're seeing, kind of that pipeline between the two.
And it's just cleaner. Like I said, if you try to do this manually, you're gonna have major issues. Guess I didn't show the update. It must be taking a little bit. There's some lag between when these update. Oh, still, it's doing a release to staging. Sorry, that's why I wasn't updated. So we have one more. So import to.
And so what you're saying here is that there's a dev environment, there's a staging environment, and there's a prod potentially, or even more maybe that could, be at play here, where as you're releasing, it doesn't really matter where it's going as long as you kind of point it in the right direction.
Yeah. Especially once you configure it and everything, and that's what I like about it. There's been times, and I'll be honest with you, like must have been a long day, and somebody asked me to move a solution and move it manually. And so I don't know what I was thinking. I moved it to the wrong environment. But luckily the changes applied, everything was okay. But yeah, having, a few of these pipelines set up to handle that for you,
right,
kind of reduces the chance of you messing something up. As long as you configure it properly in the beginning. Everything starts at the beginning.
I try to use as less brain power during the day as possible. And if I'm doing this, a couple times a week, or maybe once a week, or once a month, whatever it is, you can just set something up like this, set it, forget it. I mean, this is pretty awesome.
So this is here. So it was last modified 1 minute ago. This came all the way from our dev into our GitHub using GitHub Actions, put into our repositories. A pull request was created. That pull request was then moved to our main branch, and from our main branch, we had another action run to move it to our production environment. So yeah, that's my presentation on. Oh, yeah, I also have a little before we hop off of here. Just a little small thing to show you how you could tie this in. So there are GitHub Actions, or there's a connector out to GitHub, I should say, in Power Automate that you could go and look at. And you have to configure that as well. I have it running when a pull request is generated. So if I go, am I close? Oh, of course it does this thing. But cloud flows, production moves. So there's a little GitHub.
Yep, I see the GitHub icon.
So, oh, it didn't run when I created. Oh, I didn't have it tied to that repo. But either way, once a pull request is created, you'll get the pull request URL, the action performed, all this different metadata on that. And I just put a compose in here because that's my default when I want to see something work or run. But then normally I would just tie this out to an alert and send it to myself to say, this is what occurred in that pull request. So that's my demo there on GitHub.
This was awesome, and this really gave me that intro that I needed to be able to better understand, GitHub, how it works, packaging those solutions up, bringing them from dev to staging to prod, and how you can create that consistent pipeline.
Okay.
Awesome, Steve. How long until we can get our version control wrapped into something like this?
The app itself, do you mean, or? Yeah, no, there's a good talk here, especially in the Power BI space of using GitHub. We talked about SharePoint as well, which is what our one uses. I think GitHub really works well with code, and that's kind of what it's designed for. In the BI space, we're still not all there yet, being able to take the code out of certain parts, which is why we use the SharePoint. But there's I've put some links out if you're following on LinkedIn. You can use GitHub Actions on this in the Power BI, especially when you have data models. So very, very versatile tool, GitHub, very widely used, I think, around there. So really awesome. Thank you for the intro there, Duke.
No problem.
Cool. Thanks, guys. And just a quick wrap up here, some upcoming events. Today, we had Steve actually just prior to this conversation on Dataverse and Dataverse for Teams, and then we had of course Duke here talking about GitHub 101, and then tomorrow we're going to be having Amber Weiss as we discuss kind of a recap to 2021. So again, just thank you everybody for coming, and excited to have gone through this journey with you. And thanks again, Duke.
No problem. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.